Namaste and welcome to the Divas That Care Network. I'm your host, Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground podcast. This is your first time tuning in. Our network is in its 16th year and listened to in over 30 countries. I would like to take a moment to personally thank you for giving me the gift of your time. As always, it is my honor to hold space with and for you. And today we are still on our kind of throat chakra voice empowering mission for this series. And I know I've mentioned the simplicity with which we can support our chakra systems many times in the past, and it literally is, a little bit of, it could even be seen as too easy, too simple. And that is, if a food matches the color of the chakra, the food more than likely supports the chakra. So, as we talk about the throat chakra and we talk about foods that support your voice or strengthen, there's always the conversation of whether it strengthens or whether it balances, right? Depending on the state of the chakra. So, let me just take a moment, as I have in the past, and just go over the idea of the chakra system, in that they are energy centers in the body. There are seven of them, from crown to root. Crown chakra above the head, connection to the divine, to source. Third eye chakra right here in your third eye, just above the brow. Throat chakra, you guessed it, right about at your throat. Heart chakra, again, you guess it, at your at your heart, solar plexus, again, right between essentially the heart and the navel. Your sacral chakra is at just above the pelvic bowl, if you will, and your root chakra literally is at the base. We'll just call it the tailbone, but the bottom of the spine, essentially. And this energetic system helps to, I mean, every chakra is aligned, and that is not what this episode today is about. So I will encourage you to do a little bit of research on your own if it piques your interest, or you can go back into some of my other episodes which refer to the chakra systems a little more in depth, and I'm happy to make one all about that. But it would still need to be a very lengthy episode, because it's just going to glaze the surface with how intricate these systems truly are in the body, if you believe in them, right? So there are many people who believe that energy or the chakras are woo woo, right? They can't prove it, they can't see it with a microscope, or there are auric cameras. So I'm not going to debate the woo woo with you today. We all know that I err on the side of highly woo woo. So when it comes to the chakras, and when it comes to yoga, and when it comes to the idea of, your energetic body and your physical body having a relationship that is grounded to a certain extent in this exchange with the chakras. So, if your throat chakra is out of balance, for example, you can have throat issues, you can have thyroid. I have a throwing shade on myself right now. I have a thyroid condition, right? That could be an imbalance in my throat chakra. It can also come from other things, because the thyroid issue is related to a hormonal issue. It could be coming from a sacral chakra imbalance. I I'm not a doctor, as I've said many, many times, but these are the things. When you have a neck injury, I also have a neck injury. How many different things are pointing to throat chakra for me? Multiple. But the neck injury was inflicted upon me by my horse. It was not his fault, but it was, there were many injuries over the series of my life that led to the neck injuries. So there is an element of chicken or egg, right? Does the throat chakra respond and manifest an injury to call attention to itself, or does the injury imbalance the throat chakra? And I can't, only God and the universe source knows the answer to that. But when we're talking about ways to nutritionally support the throat chakra, again, as beautiful and wonderful in its simplicity, what feels good to your throat? Think about that, right? So if you have a sore throat, scratchy throat, allergies, anything like that, what feels good? Oftentimes warm beverages, honey, coating, soothing foods. So those are, hint hint, those are all things that support. So we're thinking of our lemon water, we're thinking of our chamomile teas, we're thinking of our, I really am always a big fan, not only since COVID, I will say, because I started doing this during COVID, but just warm water with lemon and honey in it as my, like, in my mug to go for the day. I've always loved that. It's hydrating. The honey gives it a little bit of a boost of sugar, healthy sugar, as healthy as you can get, I suppose. And then the lemon is just giving that gentle, it's an acid, yes, but it does turn alkaline in the body. And in addition to that, it has that extra health benefit of lemon water. So with or without the honey, I personally like the honey for the throat aspect of it. So that's one thing that you can do. Again, chamomile tea is something that you can do. Ginger tea, cinnamon, all of these herbs and spices are positive for the throat chakra. And also, again, use your use your body's own, like, I want to say genetic intuition, but your body's own response system. What feels good for that part of your body, right? Like if we're talking about the throat chakra, it's not going to feel really great on the throat chakra, cayenne pepper. Just for example, right? Because that's going to be very heating, it's going to be aggressive, it's not soothing in its capacity. So that's just an example when you're talking about how to support these different energy centers of ways not to, right? So the other thing is, again, with the beautiful simplicity in this idea of food supporting your energy centers in the body, is the color matches the food. So while the throat chakra is generally seen to be a little more turquoise. So there are technically two blue, air quotes for those of you that are listening, chakras, the throat and the third eye. And the throat chakra is usually aligned a little bit more to an, I don't want to say aqua, but like a turquoise or more of a true blue. And the third eye is that more deeper, darker indigo, like almost purplish blue. So that just for your information, generally speaking. And so when we think about that, you can say, okay, well, how many blue foods are there? Well, the blueberry, that's one. And I think I've done the third eye chakra, and I use the blueberry for the third eye chakra as well. But as the crown chakra is lavender purple in nature, a lot of, we'll call them practitioners, Ayurvedic or otherwise, will suggest that the crown chakra, as it is not a chakra related directly to an actual body part, right? It sits above the physical body as is its essence. The crown chakra is generally supported by detoxification or fasting. So as there's no like purple food associated necessarily with the crown chakra, because I would go ahead and say that the gentle purple foods, think red cabbage, think grapes, would be associated with the crown chakra. You could make an argument that they are supporting more the third eye chakra, and then you could have those blue foods really support the throat. The bottom line is, and I've said this before in almost all of my nutrition episodes, if you are eating fresh, I'll say reasonably and responsibly sourced and locally grown foods, fruits and vegetables, general clean eating, that is the best thing you can do for your body and your chakra system as a whole. That's just the truth. Cognizant dietary choices. And yes, now we're talking about a specific area of the body, of course. Like we are speaking specifically to those alignment foods like your blueberries, like your blackberries, berries in general, strawberries, raspberries. They can all support that space. I think even apples, from some of the research that I've done, support the throat chakra. But anytime that you are supporting any of the energetic systems in the body, more often than not, the foods you're supporting them with are fruits and vegetables. Not always, but spices as well, but they're fruits and vegetables. And the reason for that is because that is clean, pure, gentle nourishment for the body. You can dress it up, you can unfortunately speaking, I'm not trying to throw shade, but essentially if you look, if there's not going to be a chakra supportive chicken finger. There's not going to be a chakra supportive cheesesteak, pizza. These are not foods that are going to support the chakras. These are not foods that are going to support your body. And again, I'm not telling you not to eat them. I went to college outside Philadelphia. I loved a good cheesesteak. I won't eat it now, but I love it and it's delicious and there's a place for it and there's no shade or shame other than the fact that at a certain point as you go through the process of turning the magnifying glass on yourself at life, it's a hard process, man. I will tell you. Like the more you look at yourself in any capacity, whether you're talking physical, biological, emotional, mental, any time you really stand in front of a mirror and you are your harshest critic, so if you take this with a grain of salt and do so with some grace and forgiveness for yourself, but once you start to, like Shrek, peel the onion and you start to look at yourself and the choices that you make, it becomes very hard to hide from your own discernment. And I have found, and it could just be me, and I won't, again, like I don't judge anyone else for eating meat. I don't judge anyone else for eating pizza. Like it's not it's their body, it's their choice, it's their diet, it's what they want to do for themselves. They have their right there on their own journey and path. That is I can't pretend or even think for a moment that I have insight into what their path is for them and what they need to do for themselves to walk their own path. However, what I can say is that for me, as I have embarked on the dietary journey for health purposes, right back to the throat chakra and the thyroid issue and the multiple neck issues. I mean, maybe I have a block, maybe I have had a blockage in my throat chakra, maybe even this podcast here as we're speaking and I'm speaking out and I consistently show up for myself every week and record this podcast. That is a way for me to exercise the discipline for not just my throat chakra, right? Case in point, but also for the commitment I've made to myself. And my diet is the same thing. It's a commitment that you make to yourself. And in order to be committed to yourself and to really discipline, it is a discipline. I've missed weeks of this podcast and I've said to everyone, I've said to you guys, I'm like, hey, listen, like I think it was Easter, like I took a week, right? My grid is going to be off by one. It's going to drive my OCD mad, but it's okay, it's all right. I still showed up every other week, and there will always be a week where you could take a vacation. Around the holidays I took a week, maybe I even took two. That's okay, but come back, right? Rest, don't quit. That's kind of the idea here. But when we're talking about this idea of self-discipline, supporting the throat chakra, foods and nutrition that support your body as a whole and your ability to heal yourself, clear your voice, speak your truth, you have to start holding up a mirror to yourself and really looking at you and, honestly, pardon my French, cutting through your own bullshit. It's just the truth. Your brain will convince you to continue to eat the chicken fingers. And I love chicken fingers. So they're delicious. There's a restaurant by me that has hand breaded, deep fried chicken fingers. They are amazing. I miss them every day. Every day I miss them. So I'm not saying that it doesn't come at a price, and the price is delicious chicken fingers. Or, as I said last nutrition episode, oh God, the sourdough and ricotta with Thai chili oil. Come on, man. I mean, I love food. I'm not ever gonna hate on anyone for loving food and enjoying it and being creative with it. But there is a difference between hand-baked sourdough bread, locally sourced ricotta cheese, and I don't know where the Thai chili oil comes from. Like, we're gonna assume it's Thai chili, so there you go. But also, there's a big difference between that and a breaded, even if it's hand breaded, it'll be better, but a breaded deep fried chicken finger. There's a big, big, big difference. So even in the foods that you choose to purchase, that you choose to eat, it's your choice. And again, the more clean you eat, the more, maybe not so much on the vegetable standpoint, because here's the thing. Let me just say this one thing because it's very frustrating to me. Unfortunately, from my experience, because I can't speak to others, but a lot of, I'm not even going to say restaurants, but a lot of prepared foods. And in the United States, in this country, with the food industry, which we're really not going to crack that can of worms today, but there is an element where cost effectiveness is based on grain products. So people will, you go out to a restaurant, you get a pasta dish. The vegetables and meat, if they mix it in, is a slim portion and you get a whole bunch of pasta because it's cheaper. Same thing can be said with rice. You go to any, you get a rice dish. There's a little bit of, I'm Spanish, so World Cup was today, so go Spain. Congratulations to the country of my people and my family. But you think of paella, for example, and my grandmother made it, and it was delicious, and it was all these beautiful different types of generally shellfish in paella, and this amazing saffron rice that my grandmother made with actual saffron. So it was like legit paella. It was absolutely wonderful. Um, the bulk of the dish was rice. So and that's not even a necessarily American dish, right? That's a European dish. So it's not just America. And rice is a staple all over the world, but the grain base is a cost-effective option. And when you start eliminating that for whatever reason, dietary, you know, weight wise, paleo wise, right? Um, other than vegetarians, which hopefully you are getting some grains in your diet, like quinoa has a lot of protein in it, for example. When you're talking about that and you start to shift to meat and vegetables or mostly vegetables, you will notice that yeah, it gets more expensive, especially if you're a hungry girl like I am, and I like to eat a lot. I buy a box of lettuce when it was safe to do so up until recently. And like let's say, like one of those organic plastic, and I'm sorry, it is a single use plastic. I do recycle it. The box of pre-washed, let's say, spinach. I will eat the whole thing in one sitting. Absolutely, that's my dinner. And I will throw other vegetables, maybe some protein in there as well, but I will eat the whole thing because I'm a hungry girl and I like to do that. And so to that end, I think it's very important for the masses who are considering really taking again that magnifying glass to their own lifestyle, to their own diet, to whatever you feel is out of alignment for you in your life. You have to look at it before you can do anything about it. And looking at it is the hardest part. When I stopped drinking, it was an abrupt 180-degree turn for a multitude of reasons, not just one reason. But again, you get tired of your own excuses. And that is the bottom line for any big changes to your life. Let me use my voice and my throat chakra to say that until you get sick of your own BS, you're not going to make any changes. And that's true for the people who you love too. You can't expect anyone around you to change because you want them to. They can only change when the ramifications of their actions become so egregious to their everyday that they can no longer run from them and they are faced with them. And generally, as my amazing mother used to say, again, raised Spanish Catholic, if you don't check yourself, God will check you. And I have seen that happen in my own life. I've seen it happen in others' lives. And so I will always be the first to say you can interchange God with universe, source, whatever you want. But if you don't get in front of a problem that you see in front of you or take the strides necessary, I'm not saying that you can fix everything like a miracle, right? We are not source, right? We are an expression of source, arguably, but we are not, we, oh, I can't unpack that today either with the manifestation and creating your own reality. We're not going to go down that wormhole. But within reason, I think part of the manifestation process or part of the God within us process is that idea of recognition of the problem and taking those necessary steps to make those positive changes, be it diet, be it, well, for me, be it drinking as one option, be it whatever it is, whether you don't like to work out or you don't like to exercise, whatever problem, if you're pre-diabetic, for example, or if you have the awareness, for example, I have a like I'm not even sure if it's genetically high cholesterol or if I just had some, I'm predisposed to higher cholesterol even without eating. When I was vegetarian, I was still predisposed to high cholesterol. So when you see something, instead of avoiding it, turning and confronting it and facing it and taking the necessary strides, as uncomfortable as they may be in the moment, doing what you can do to mitigate the situation for yourself so that you don't let it get so bad that you no longer have the options that may once have been available to you that you chose to ignore and are now no longer available to you. You know, your options narrow the farther down a crappy path you choose to go. And that is true, I believe, at life. It is not just with relation to your throat chakra. It is not just relation to your food and your diet. Although that's a wonderful metaphor, is food and diet is a very tangible way that should be really relatable to every human being. In so far as, you know, knowing better. I don't know that there are many people that don't know better when they reach for the delicious deep fried chicken finger. They know that's not apple chicken finger. I mean, like inherently, if you should know SpaghettiOs, kale, right? Like I'm being really, I'm being, and maybe not kale right now, but you know what I'm saying. I'm specific and a little bit dramatic, we'll say, in my comparisons, but it's because, intuitively your body knows. The more you practice asking your body, noticing how you feel after you eat. I will share this one story. I've said it to multiple different people in my life relatively recently, and I don't know the reason why. So I'm going to preface with an apology to Wawa. But well before I was on the diet and nutrition bandwagon, we'll call it, um, I would eat like a quote unquote, again, air quotes for those of you that are listening, like normal human, right? And I would get a Wawa sub. This was like right around or right after college, mid to late 20s, give or take. And I remember it was so notable when I was growing up, my father, when we would have dinner, generally pasta or dessert, my father would fall asleep at the table, like without fail. My father is now a diabetic. Whether this is a diabetic, I'm sure an educated medical professional could give me the exact reasons for why this is the case, but as I said earlier in this very episode, not a doctor. So, because of that, I'm just going to share my experience. For whatever reason, this particular, and Wawa bread in particular, I don't know what it was about it. It happened more than once. But on this particular instance, I was driving from New Jersey back to Philadelphia, back to school or just after, and I was hungry, so I got a sandwich on the road. And it was so poignant because I was driving that I began to literally nod off at the wheel. And I mean, it was maybe like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It certainly wasn't overly late. I had not been drinking or engaging in anything extracurricular. I was, sober behind the wheel, driving down the highway, getting very, very nervous because I rolled the windows down, I turned the AC up. I was starting to literally almost pass out, for lack of a better term. And the only change was that Wawa hoagie sub, depending on where you are in the world. And so it's not all bread. It was that specific bread that had such a dramatic reaction that it reminded me of my father falling asleep at the dinner table. Now, is there a family history of diabetes? Probably. Is that part of why I'm grain free? Not necessarily, but it certainly doesn't hurt. Um, and one of the bigger triggers, now I could eat a locally sourced sourdough bread and not have that reaction back before I went to paleo again and be okay. So like I said, it's there's a difference between the chicken finger and the organic, locally sourced chicken breast, right? Like there are differences. So there's a difference between Wawa bread and organic, handmade, recently baked bread. So, and I'm not saying that Wawa doesn't bake their bread in a timely fashion, But you understand, I hope, what I'm trying to get through. And that is that these choices that we make ultimately affect our well-being. And that to me is a really great way for people to start to pay attention, because the one thing that I will say that I've said about almost all diets is I do believe, I know it's aggressive, and I don't believe in aggressive limiting diets over the long term because they're not sustainable. And they can lead, as I said relatively recently, they can lead to deficiencies. Even the paleo diet, if you're not conscientious, if you were eating mostly meat on a paleo diet and you weren't like me, and I'm not saying that I'm doing it right or better than anybody else, but if you really lived by the true nature and ate more meat, because I don't want to do that, I have a vegan protein shake, I eat more eggs, I eat less meat. Anytime you start to play with the strictness of any diet, you do run the risk of imbalances in what your body needs as a whole. And that is a very important thing to note. That's why keto and I really did not get along well. So when we talk about this idea of paying attention, I do believe that the idea of the 30-day cleanse, removing all potential inflammation foods, or there's generally a list that most, it's Whole Food 30, or I'm sorry, Whole 30 is a great place to start. And no, they don't pay me to say that. And I didn't do their specific protocol, but that's the one that's most similar, where you eliminate sugar and you eliminate bread and you eliminate grains and you eliminate, you eliminate everything for 30 days and you really reset your body. I advise anyone who wants to do this. You don't have to do this. No one's holding a gun to your head. Your body might be, but nobody else is. If you go this route, do that to get to a reset place to start to implement. The other day, because I was toying with the idea of really trying to reduce meat to almost zero, or maybe just fish here and there, I bought feta cheese. I figured, well, let me try to re-implement a high protein, non-dairy. It was a goat, it was a, I'm sorry, sheep's milk cheese. And I bought, I bought the from Greek, like the OG, like not the US imitation, but like the as authentic as I could find. And I haven't had feta in 2 years, give or take, on purpose. I may have accidentally feted myself on a salad here and there, but not with purpose. And I gotta be honest with you, I was really excited, and it was so upsetting because it didn't taste the way I wanted it to taste, and it didn't, it wasn't as exciting. I was like, oh, it's gonna be great. It wasn't great. And that's me. I'm not, no shade again on the feta. That's me. But it wasn't, it was like my taste buds had shifted and it was just too bitey. And maybe it was a particular type of feta, but it was just, I'm not gonna get it again. Did I have a bad reaction to it? No. Great news. I did not have a bad reaction that I'm aware of to it. My body did not respond negatively, although I will say I did wake up very, very grumpy the next morning. So if there is some sort of correlation between mood and dairy, which, or, animal product, because again, it was not cow's milk cheese, then potentially. But the point of this is, if you're going to go that route, please do so mindfully. If you're going to do the 30-day cleanse, you don't have to live that way forever, but as you start to implement one thing at a time so that you can discern. That's one of the best ways to go about these. Is this good for me, or is this not good for me? Is this supporting my body, or is it not supporting my body, versus going and getting literal allergy testing, which is a great thing to do anyway. And I encourage anyone who wants to do that to please do. Um, I think it's wonderful, but it may not, there are things other than allergies, like in that can upset you with your diet. So tuning in to your body's own intuition is always going to be my best suggestion to anyone and everyone. And the way to do that is, for me, it was process of elimination and single reintroduction, so that you have and really, you can journal. I had food journals for years on and off, um, noting how you feel after you eat, how you feel the next day. This is the magnifying glass that I'm talking about. This is turning it on yourself, and it takes a lot. And could you call it self-involved? Sure. Absolutely you could. But I will argue that if you do this for yourself, and you try to create the most optimum version of yourself inside and out, that you will then be your best self for anyone and everyone around you. If you feel good because you're eating well and you're exercising and you're taking care of your meat suit. Hi, this is my meat suit. If you're taking good care of your meat suit will take care of you back. What does that translate to? It translates to feeling better, having more being kinder to the people around you, having more enjoyment with your friends and family because you're in a better mood, you're in a better headspace. It translates into being more positive, feeling good, being good, doing good, acting good. It starts with you. It just does. And so I think selfish in that way only helps not only yourself, but those around you. And I think that that is, you are your own little light. I think that that is one of the most important things that you can be, is to then shine that light on yourself until you're nice and bright and sparkly, and then letting that light from you shine onto others. And frankly, that's what this podcast is all about. That's the point, is not like, and again, it's a discipline, right? So it's not like it's all fun and games. Like it's a lot of effort, but it's, to me, it's worth it. And I think that for people that have, especially if you have a disease or disease that runs in the family, there is no one size fits all for this, which is why it's so important to deepen the intuition with your own body by tuning into listening to its responses, how it communicates with you, how it says, yes, I like that. No, I don't like that. Um, and when stop doing the things that it's telling you that it doesn't like. Once you realize, and I'm not saying never, but you know, if you have the answer to something, the definition of insanity is repeating the same experience and anticipating a different result. So if you know the Wawa hoagie is going to render you unconscious behind the wheel of a car, maybe don't get it and eat it on the way home a second time. So again, very dramatic examples for, a relatively mundane conversation, but going back to the idea of the throat chakra, the speaking up for yourself, the strengthening of this energy center in the body. The foods that I mentioned, we'll go over them one more time: blueberries, blackberries, berries of any kind, purple and blue foods, for example, more blue than purple, but that's why the blueberry comes in. Those soothing, think almost syrupy. So, for example, like coconut water, that thicker beverage that coats, the raw honey that coats, chamomile tea, um, those herbs and spices that help when you have a sore throat. What comes to your mind when you think, when this part of my body is out of alignment, like with a scratchy throat, allergies, strep throat, God forbid, something like that? What do you want? Like I said, you're not going to want cayenne. You may not want bubbles out of, from like from soda, like that caustic kind of feeling down your throat. Those are not going to support the throat chakra. But those soft, gentle, enlivening foods generally do. So coming from that place of setting your whole body up and paying attention again to how you respond. Let's say you have an allergy to blueberries. Well, then don't eat them. Pick a blackberry, pick a different throat chakra beneficial food for you that will help to get your throat chakra open and balanced. And this is a nutrition episode, which is why we've gone so far into the conversation of the clean eating and choosing the fruits and vegetables to be the larger part of your diet, which will help with not only the cholesterol, not only the diabetes, but lots of other factors. The bottom line is the idea of a heavy grain base is potentially, it's less expensive, and I'm not going to say that there isn't value to grains for people that have the body chemistry and metabolism that processes them effectively. Everybody is different. I think I said that already. So the idea is then what supports you, and and more fruits and vegetables. That they've been saying for years. An apple a day, also good for the throat chakra, keeps the doctor away. And really choosing as many foods as you can in your day, in your week, that cleanse, clear, support the body, the throat chakra, and all your other chakras. That is the bottom line. It's less about denial. The discipline is in the denial of what you eat, but the it's again, it's about replacement. And focus less on what you're missing. Focus less on the pizza and the chicken fingers, and more, the more you practice this, the less you want those things. That was my point with the feta. I thought in my mind's eye that I was, I really miss cheese. Let me see if I can implement a high protein cheese to take away from, the chicken that I may put so I can spare that chicken. And it didn't work because my body has now been on this path for so long that it's not the same reaction to that food. So we're going to have to try again. So again, it's a process. It's allowing yourself grace through the process, and it's ultimately making the choices that support you. I'm not telling you not to eat meat. I'm not telling you not to eat cheese or pizza or anything else. I'm saying that if you embark on this, focus more on the really delicious things like the berries. It's summer here, so like the watermelons, like those super healthy and hydrating fruits and vegetables that you want to eat in summer because it's cool and you're warm, right? Like those types of things. And the more for the throat, the more they soothe, the thicker, the more syrupy. And I don't mean that in a Robitussin kind of way. I mean that in a raw honey and warm tea kind of way. They're going to open up and clear that throat chakra. And remember that when we're talking about our voice and we're talking about our throat chakra and supporting that energy center, the chakra and the body, the energetic and the physical, are intrinsically linked. They are essentially one and the same. So, what as above, as within, so without, as above, so below. If you have a neck injury, it's going to affect the energy center. If you have an imbalance in the energy center, it's going to affect the body. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about, what's going on with you physically, mentally, and emotionally. Um, I'm not saying that you can necessarily self-diagnose. You should always go to a qualified practitioner, be it an Ayurvedic practitioner, be it a qualified medical doctor. Always go to a qualified medical doctor. I always look at this, as I said in the macrobiotic episode called Trigger Warning. Um, Diet and exercise is a support. If it keeps you away from the doctor, great. It is not a replacement for. Diet is not a replacement for someone with diabetes. Diet is not a replacement for someone with cancer. Diet is a support of whatever your doctor tells you is your best choice. If you need to be on a drug, I'm on a thyroid drug. I take it every morning. Do I want to take it? No. Am I going to continue to take it? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Why? Because I believe that you have to have both. You can't, and I will again love you, mom, but if you the it's all the same. It's all the same support system. But if you turn your back on, let's say, the pharmaceutical industry, right, from a standpoint of beliefs, then you're not supporting in every way that you can. So pick and choose what you can, but I will never tell you not to go to your doctor, not to go to a qualified Ayurvedic practitioner, not to go to a qualified nutritionist, right? Go wherever you feel called to go, and but trust your body and the way that it speaks to you. And if you don't know what way that is, start opening the lines of communication and let it start with your throat chakra. So, as always, leaving you with the fact that I appreciate each and every one of you for sharing your space with me, and ask that you please feel free to share the same with your loved ones. For more goodness, follow me on all the socials at Above the Ground Podcast, or be sure to visit my website, airsAboveYoga.com. There have been a lot of changes to that website. Wink, wink, nod, nod, for those of you that don't know. So I will make an announcement about that probably moving into our next series. So stay tuned for that. And as always, don't forget to check out my other episodes and all of my amazing sisters at the Divas That Care Network. You can find us on Odyssey, Apple, SoundCloud, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else that you might feel guided. Again, my name is Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground podcast, where every day is a good one.